we live in a world of finite resources, and yet we're pillaging the planet like there's no tomorrow. Coming up, Eco India discovers the dangers of stealing capital from nature, as well as ways to manage the assets on which all our lives depend. Hello and welcome, I'm Sanutha Raghu. Some raw materials could be exhausted within decades if we continue extracting them at the current rate. That will drive up prices. For construction, for instance, the industry relies on sand for materials to build our booming cities. But sand mining has dramatic environmental consequences, as we've discovered on Mumbai's shores.
It's just before midday when a small fishing boat approaches the shore near Mumbai. But the men on board aren't making a living from fishing as their fathers and grandfathers did. Instead, they have been pulling sand out of the sea, bucketful after bucketful. Among them is Jairam Chandal. He can dive up to depths of 12 meters. When he started 20 years ago, he was just the person who hauled the buckets on board. But then he started diving, spending up to 5 hours in the water, doing dive after dive with no protective equipment and no oxygen tank. It's dangerous work.
We go into the water with the pipe in one hand and the bucket in the other. We hold the pipe with our legs and use the bucket to dig out sand. Then the people on the boat pull up the bucket. I come up by holding the pipe. They empty the bucket into the boat, give it back to me, and then I dive again.
This coastal region has a decades-long tradition of pulling sand out of the sea for use in construction. The problem now is the scale. Several thousand people earn a living by mining the sea for sand, says activist Somera Abdullali. She's been campaigning against illegal sand mining on India's coast for more than 10 years.
It has a lot of adverse effects on environment, but of course it also has effects on the community because although they don't realize it, this sand mining is destroying their fields and their livelihoods and making their fishing livelihood loss worse by actually reducing the amount of fish catch. It's also because it's taking away the medium which holds the river or the creek or the beach together. It's also making land more vulnerable to land loss.
Meanwhile, the demand for sand is growing as a raw material for the construction industry. Since 1990, Mumbai's population has more than doubled to almost 21 million people. In 10 years, that number is expected to grow by another 5 million. And in Mumbai, growth needs sand. In the waters all around Mumbai, sand mining is prohibited. But illegal sand mining is a thriving business worth billions. That's what makes Somera Abdullali's work so dangerous. She's been brutally attacked twice for speaking out publicly against illegal sand mining. But she hasn't let that stop her.
I was in hospital for a little bit. And of course, the idea was to frighten me and make me stop complaining. But for me, it worked the other way. I felt that if somebody is taking it seriously enough, that they're actually willing to do physical harm to somebody, and particularly a woman in full sight of the village who all pretended to be asleep while this was happening, then surely there is more to it.
Together with her Awaz Foundation, Abdullali turned to the United Nations to raise awareness of illegal sand mining. And the UN's Environment Agency has declared sand to be the world's second most exploited resource after water, with up to 50 billion tons used each year. In other words, a resource in need of governance. Rivers, deltas and coastlines are being destroyed in the search of sand, and with them, the habitats of plants and animals, as well as natural flood barriers. At the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, researchers are looking for alternative materials for the construction industry. Shyam Asolekar has been looking for a sand substitute for years. He and his students have finally found one in decades-old garbage.
The good outcome of that research was that we realized after aging what remains is nearly all useful. And then if we really go and mine those aged landfills, which we call in India as legacy landfills, that legacy solid waste can easily be processed at that location and then fractionated into various size fractions and the fractions of hardness. And we got, then we separated
Just like sand, the solid waste can be used in a multitude of different ways on building sites.
So bricks can be built very quickly. And our estimation is that between 5 and 10% material only needs to go to the landfill among the entire solid waste that is generated in a given location, and anywhere between 90 and 95% material can be put into several recycle and then converted and refurbished into various other construction materials and substitutes, which can go again back into the construction industry.
It will take time until waste can replace sand as a raw material, and persuading Mumbai's sand divers to give up their jobs will be no easy task. A diver is paid 1,000 rupees, around 12 euros a day. A bucket puller can earn 400 rupees, much needed income for several thousand families.
It's impossible to go and stop it overnight. There would be many problems with something like that. You know, you would have a problem in meeting the needs of the country and growth. You would have a problem in providing alternate livelihoods if it was done overnight.
Over the next 25 years, India wants to invest $1.4 trillion in infrastructure projects for its growing population in its growing cities. That means no shortage of work for the sand divers of Mumbai, and even more damage to India's marine ecosystems.
To Kerala now, and a community that is spearheading a drive to conserve the wetlands that it relies on, and that thousands of species call home. It's located on one of the most polluted lakes in the world. Through a series of initiatives, locals now have their sights set on becoming a model wetland village.
Only half an hour to go before school ends. But at this government school in Muhamma in the southern Indian state of Kerala, students are still hard at work.
You know what we are going to do? We are going to make a bag and use it when we go to buy rice. Tell your mother not to buy any plastic bags. Tell her to make such bags using old clothes. We should save our environment, right?
It's not just another lesson in math or history, nor is Vidya Anusudhan their teacher. She is here as part of a new program to train students on how to upcycle old clothes and make them into cloth bags. Vidya has been stitching clothes for years now. But it's only in 2016 when she was approached and given training by her panchayat and non-profit Ashoka Trust in Ecology and Environment, or ATRE, that she decided to switch to making bags, pillowcases and sanitary pads from old clothes collected from homes, schools and colleges. Since then, she along with this small crew of women have made close to 6,000 cloth bags from around 2,600 kgs of used clothes. For the women, the benefits have been multifold.
There have been so many changes in our lives. Even though it's small scale, we get an income from this. We also get to meet more people and get to know more things. It gives us a lot of happiness and mental peace.
Vidya's native village, Muhamma, in Alapura district, lies along Vembanad Lake, the longest lake in India. And for years, she has witnessed pollution in the lake getting progressively worse. Being part of an initiative that reduces the number of clothes dumped into the lake, while also helping make alternatives for plastic bags, seemed meaningful to her.
My husband works in the lake. He collects clams for a living. When he comes back with clams, we see a lot of plastic in it. Every time he comes back, each heap will have 2 or 3 plastic items in it. There are always bottles and plastic bags. There is no control on how people are dumping plastic and garbage into the lake.
It's also a Ramsar site, meaning it has been designated a wetland for international importance by UNESCO. But the lake, which serves as a lifeline for 1.6 million people, is also one of the most polluted water bodies in the world. A recent study found high levels of plastics and microplastics in the lake. Textiles and glass are also major sources of pollution. Pesticides used in nearby paddy fields also trickle down into the water, choking the rich biodiversity that exists in and around it. In Muhamma, a small village with a population of 25,000, the impact has been severe.
The production of clams has decreased. The production of fish has decreased. The production of prawns has been hit badly. All of this had affected the people who depend on the lake for their livelihood, and this had become an issue of their survival.
The situation was dire when the Alapura branch of Bangalore-based non-profit A-Tree approached the Panchayat in 2016 with an idea. Make Muhamma a model wetland village. Under the project, a wide range of initiatives, including the upcycling enterprise, were launched.
All our work is involved with maximum community participation. We believe in an inclusive form of management. So actually for this project also, we made sure that the local panchayat is partnered with us along with the health department and the other community-based organizations in the area. So I think maybe that should be one reason that partnership made it happen. The response we got was tremendous.
That response was the highest for another initiative, which made Muhamma India's first synthetic sanitary pad-free village. Plastic-based pads that end up in the lake were found to be a major source of pollution in the village, with a survey finding that 7,000 menstruating women in Muhamma use up to 1 lakh sanitary pads a month. Ever since they were distributed on subsidized rates, Bindu switched to using cloth pads and menstrual cups.
When we saw the cups for the first time, we were scared. Now that we have started using it, we can't do without it. It was very helpful for us during floods. After using the cups, we can dry them inside. Cloth pads have to be dried outside. With the cups, we didn't have to worry about anything when it rains and floods.
Despite the funding received by A-Tree ending in 2020, the project continues to live on with the NGO's support and the Panchayat's leadership. For the residents here, continuing to set a model in wetland conservation is as important a task as protecting and conserving the lake that nourishes and sustains them.
Our hunger for raw materials has scarred landscapes around the world. From stone quarries in India's Odisha state that eat into hillsides to the gaping holes left by Germany's open-pit lignite mines. So what can be done with these regions once extractive practices end? A former industrial hub near Berlin offers hope of a total transformation.
The East German village of Großkoschen is bustling with summer visitors. It's just 150 kilometers south of Berlin and not far from the Polish border. The bikes offered at Eckhard Heuker's rental are in high demand, with visitors keen to explore the region.
The six-seater is finally going for a spin. It's been idle all day.
Heuker started his business here 20 years ago. Back then, no one believed that this region of Lusatia, or Lausitz as it's known in German, could attract any tourists at all. The area was solely associated with the browncoal industry. It was a moon landscape like this. The locals thought Eckhard Heuker was crazy.
Da haben die Leute gefragt, was machst du denn? Zeigst du den Leuten die Löcher?
People kept asking me, what do you do? Show people the holes? The mood was different back then. There were still a lot of the pits from the open cast mines. Today, locals are proud of what's happened here.
The vast open pits are gradually being transformed into Europe's largest lake landscape. Once complete, the Lusatian Lake District will cover 350 square kilometers. It's helping Lausitz transform into a green holiday region with broad cycling lanes, hotels, and landmarks, like the Rusty Nail, which serves as a reminder of the region's industrial past. From the top of the tower, visitors can observe another new lake in the making. The former open cast mine is slowly being flooded by groundwater.
It's really something special. I mean, how many people can show you a completely new landscape? If everything goes as planned, this will be finished by 2025, God willing. The shore's been developed and stabilized. There's still some work left to do over there. That should take another year or two.
In its prime, the coal industry in Lausitz employed 80,000 people. But in the late 1990s, the energy sector in Germany was restructured. Dozens of unprofitable mines were closed. 90% of the workers lost their jobs. 1 in 5 people left the region. Only 4 open cast mines remain active in Lausitz today, but their days are numbered too. Germany has pledged to phase out coal completely by 2038. Transforming this mining landscape cost the German state upwards of 250 million euros last year alone. Between 1992 and 2016, 10.2 billion euros was spent. Lime needs to be added to the lakes to ensure they are not too acidic for wildlife and for swimmers. Last year, more than 30,000 tons were required to balance pH levels. Then there is maintenance and risk assessment work carried out by geoengineers like Philipp Soltau. It's his job to ensure that there are no landslides. After decades of digging, the soil is more loose and can be moved more easily by groundwater if it rises quickly.
This huge wave was triggered artificially, so that land areas could be moved in a very effective way. There's a landslide happening underneath, moving further and further back, and it's these forces that create the sudden wave. At the bottom here, we see trees are knocked over like matchsticks. There are very powerful forces at work.
Officials only wanted these kind of landslides to happen in controlled circumstances. In 2010, this area saw a natural landslide, which is why entry is now unauthorized. Back then, several trucks were drowned in the tsunami-like wave. Their drivers only just rescued in time.
This work will take generations. We still have to make 30,000 hectares of land safe as part of the basic reconstruction work. We need to develop certain technologies, like non-invasive blast-induced compaction to strengthen the soil.
The transformation from what the landscape once was to what it is now is radical. And there's no blueprint on how to do this work. A 30-minute drive away in an area known as Grünhaus, over 3,000 animal and plant species have found a new home. It's become a hotspot for biodiversity.
Here we can see how nature is reconquering the land on its own, without human help. This location has developed particularly well. One species has grown up here that is common in Germany. It's bushgrass.
Stefan Röhrscheid is one of the several ecologists who proposed to not intervene here in this patch, but to just let nature do its own renaturalization. Under dry conditions, on soil that is still acidic and low in nutrients, many flowers are now thriving here.
This process has definitely taken around 10, 15 or 20 years.
So it requires a lot of patience. Röhrscheid sees the project as a success. This 2,000-hectare patch of land in Lausitz, one of many former mines, is now a wild natural habitat.
Obviously, it's an enormous gift to have been able to observe this change over the past 20 years. At the same site. I've been here from the start, and I've seen that what we envisioned has come true.
Another vision that has come true is the transformation of Lausitz into a tourist destination that combines green spaces for leisure and an industrial past that visitors want to learn about. Be it on this old conveyor bridge, now surrounded by parks of renewable energies, or on a guided tour with people who were born here, like Eckhard Heuker. He observed the rise and fall of the brown coal industry for himself, and he's still shocked by the devastating impact that the last few mines left in Lausitz are still having on the land.
I see it myself. The landscape is being destroyed. I hope that someone will develop better storage capacities for renewables to increase their use. This overexploitation is not the future.
Between 40 and 45% of Germany's energy comes from renewables. Fossil fuels like brown coal still play an important role, but the country is now paving the way for life after the coal. Germany has created a blueprint that could be of use for other countries like India that still have that path ahead.
Nowhere is the environmental damage caused by our growing material use more obvious than in the case of plastic pollution. As we seek more efficient ways to manage our resources, finding alternatives to plastic is key. We met an engineer in Tamil Nadu who's developed substitute products made from agricultural waste.
India generates approximately 3.5 million tons of plastic waste per year. What's more, researchers say that the per capita figure has doubled in the past 5 years. Tackling this growing problem requires the development of environmentally friendly substitute materials. Kalyan Kumar and his company came up with a very useful idea. They built a machine that uses 15 different types of biodegradable agricultural waste to make food containers. We gave the machine a simple design, so very little training is required to operate it. Companies buying our machinery just need to choose the raw materials, and we will help them mix the raw material base, which hardly takes a minute. Once the machinery is on, it takes 40 minutes to heat up. Raw materials are added via the die cavity. Loading and unloading are controlled by the lever. When we unload after 3 minutes, the cups and containers are finished. The burning of agricultural waste leads to serious environmental pollution, and that in turn leads to worsening health issues among the population. But farmers could make more efficient use of the waste. Coconut fibers, straw, tamarind nuts, and tea and coffee are used to make biodegradable end products. All the agricultural waste, like rice and paddy straw, can be managed more efficiently. Currently, it's either burned or crushed down and reused as fertilizer. This can be highly profitable when done right. Most of the farmers do not know what to do with the excess straw. We certainly need to create awareness about this whole process. I can invent machines, but the real challenge lies in driving the whole process to make sure equipment is available to the farmers. The machine designer from Coimbatore strongly believes that the real push must come from consumers. They must be the change makers. In spite of the government's ban on plastics, we can see what's commonly used on a day-to-day basis. We can't blame people for that. They're going to buy the things that are commercially available. We have to provide substitutes so that plastic usage can be gradually halted. Have we really come across alternative teacups at any nearby stall? The reality is that we are not efficiently managing waste, and there are raw materials available for producing sustainable and eco-friendly products. These biodegradable cups are at least one step in the right direction.
Now, as Kalyan Kumar just pointed out, using raw materials which are sustainable is the need of the hour. Remember, there is no planet B, and it falls upon us to secure the future of those who come after us. I'll leave you with that and see you again next week. Goodbye and thanks for watching.